Alright, let's talk about scatter plots, and there's three basic things you need to know about a scatter plot. And that's what kind of trend that they have. And so, they're all going to be on a graph. And you can have a positive, negative, or no trend. So that what these would look like. A positive means your dots are basically, as we're going across the x-axis, they're going up the y-axis. Negative would be the opposite. Basically, as we go across on the x-axis, our y-axis is going down. No trend would just be that we kind of have dots all over the place and we can't really tell which way it's going, if it's going up or down. And you'll also see that we can draw in a trend line. A trend line is just a line that about half the dots are on top and half the dots are on bottom. So that's the basics of a scatter plot. Alright, one other thing on a scatter plot. So I have a graph here of population. And this is just of a small town in Texas. So in 2000, there's about 2,000 people. In 2005, a little more than 2,000. In 2010, dropped just below 2,000. And then 2015, just a little higher than 2,000. So what this is showing us is that really the graph isn't changing, which means the population isn't changing. Or the population remains about the same. So that's one other thing you can have on a scatter plot, is that it's just not really changing. So you can have a positive where it's increasing, you can have a negative where it's decreasing, or you can have where it's just really not changing. Alright, so we have a scatter plot here for studying for a test. So the hours on bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how many hours I spent studying. And the score increases are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So if I study for an hour, I can expect about a little over 10 points bump in my score, as opposed to if I don't study at all. So you can think of putting in a trend line here. This is going to be positive, and we just want to get a line that kind of represents the status. So I want something kind of like that. We got roughly the same amount of bottom on top. Kind of goes through one line right there, or one point right there. Alright, so I want to know how long I need to study to get about 35 points. So I'm going to draw a line at 35, and then I'm going to go straight down. So I'm halfway between about 3 and 4. So in order to get a 35 point increase in my score, I would need to study for about 3.5 hours. So that's how you can use a scatter plot to predict what your score would be, or how long you need to study for any given time. So if I studied for 5.5 hours, I could predict what my score would be. So if I think of 5.5 hours, so I'm going to go from 5.5, I'm going to go straight up and then over. So if I study for 5.5 hours, I can expect a little over 50 point increase in my score.